الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال الله تبارك وتعالى والسابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار والذين اتبعوهم بإحسان رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه وأعد لهم جنات تجري تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا ذلك الفوز العظيم. وعن سهل بن سعد رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال يوم خيبر لأعطين هذه الراية رجلا يفتح الله على يديه يحب الله ورسوله ويحبه الله ورسوله. قال فبات الناس يدوقون ليلتهم أيهم يعطاها. قال فلما أصبح الناس غدوا على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كلهم يرجون أن يعطاها فقال أين علي بن أبي طالب؟ فقالوا هو يا رسول الله يشتكي عينيه. قال فأرسلوا إليه فأتي به فبصق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في عينيه ودعا له فبرأ حتى كأن لم يكن به وجع فأعطاه الراية. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد كلما ذكره الذاكرون وصل على سيدنا مولانا محمد كلما غفل عن ذكره الغافلون. اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد أفضل صلواتك. Tonight, inshallah, we're going to learn about the seerah or the life of Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu. From time to time we have learned about the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu. And previously, a few years ago, we did learn about the seerah of Ali radiyallahu anhu as well. But it's never without benefit, it's never without fruit to go back and learn about the lives of these great companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So a few weeks ago we learned about Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu, then we learned about Umar radiyallahu anhu, then we learned about Uthman bin Affan radiyallahu anhu. This is the order of Khilafah. After Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first person to become Khalifa after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. The second person to become Khalifa was Umar radiyallahu anhu. The third person to become Khalifa was Uthman radiyallahu anhu. And the fourth person to become Khalifa is Ali bin Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu. Ali bin Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu is a hero of Islam. There's no doubt about that. And all the Muslims agree on the merits of Ali radiyallahu anhu and his lofty position in Islam. No Muslim disagrees with that. Those people who disagreed with that were called Khawarij. They were a misguided sect in the early period of Islam, but the remnant of that group is here today as well, unfortunately. And all the scholars in the mainstream Islam agree on labeling this organization ISIS as Khawarij. They are the Khawarij of our time. Because if these same people were alive in the time of Ali radiallahu an, and in the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu an, and in the time of Umar radiallahu an, they would label those companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as deficient Muslims as well, or in some cases as disbelievers as well. So Khawarij were a big problem in the time of Ali radiallahu anh, and he dealt with them successfully. He did crush that fitna that he faced during his time. And he dealt with many challenges in his time as Khalifa, as Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ali radiallahu anh was born in Mecca, and he was born, some say, about 8 years before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam became the Prophet of Allah. Some say he was born 10 years before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam became Prophet of Allah. But he's the first child to embrace Islam. At the age of 8 or 10, he embraced Islam. The only people who accepted Islam before him were Khadija radiallahu anha and Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. These were the only two people who accepted Islam before Ali radiallahu anh, and Ali radiallahu anh became third in that sense, but he became first as a child to embrace Islam. And that tells us that if a child embraces Islam, that is valid. But the child, when decides to follow Islam, then that Islam, that reversion to Islam of that child will be valid and will be accepted. Will not be rejected just because that person is a child. And later, if that child, when he grows up, decides to go some other way, then that's their choice. But if a child comes to Islam, he will not be rejected simply because he's a child. Because Islam gives validation to children as well. It does not reject children just because they're children. There are many things for which children are not responsible. Children are not held liable. But if they do something good, you validate them. You don't just condemn them or reject them just because they are children. And we see that in the life of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I'll give you one example. Once the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting in the majlis, in the gathering of elders. And who were the elders in that gathering? Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, Umar radiallahu anh, and Uthman radiallahu anh, and others. They were sitting with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in that gathering, someone brought milk to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and presented it. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam drank that milk, and then he wanted to share that milk with the people who were with him in that gathering. So people were sitting in a circle around the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, starting from his right all the way completing the circle to the left. So on the right, there was a child sitting next to the Prophet ﷺ, and that child was none other than Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu. A young man, maybe a teenager at that time. And on the left side, it was Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, then Umar radiallahu anhu, then Uthman radiallahu anhu. So Islam teaches us to start the distribution or all the good things from the right. When you want to serve food, start from the right. When you want to distribute something, start from the right. When you want to do something good, start from the right. That is the principle of Islam. That is the teaching of Islam. At the same time, Islam also teaches us to respect our elders. So the Prophet ﷺ had to choose between two things that are both important. Respecting the elders is important, And one way of showing respect to the elders is to allow them to be the first ones to be served. And at the same time, the Prophet ﷺ wanted to follow the principle to start from the right side. So the Prophet ﷺ, he decided that he will ask the person sitting on his right if it is okay with him to sacrifice his right to accept the first serve and then allow the one who's the older here to be served, to be presented. So the Prophet ﷺ turned to Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, and he said, according to our religion, you have the right that I give this bowl to you. But would it be okay with you if I take your turn and give it to Abu Bakr instead, because he is an elder in this gathering? So Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anh, he asked, O Prophet of Allah, is that an order or a choice? The Prophet ﷺ said, it is a choice. I'm giving you a choice. Would you like to hold on to your right or prefer someone else over your right? So Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anh, being the kind of smart person he was, he said, if it was something else, I would gladly give preference to someone else over myself, over my own right. But since it is about the leftover from you, I will not give that right to anyone. I will hold on to my right, and I would like to drink from your leftover first. So he took that. Now this small story from the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminds us that we should not ignore the youngsters. We should not ignore the children just because they're children. In any other example, we would say, it's okay, that's a child. He doesn't have any feelings. Oh, we don't really care about the child. It's a child. We should care about the older people. We should care about the elders. So we ignore that. We do not validate that. We do not respect that. The Prophet ﷺ honored that. The Prophet ﷺ respected that. The Prophet ﷺ set an example that these children should not be ignored. And he laid the foundation of that. If you reflect on this incident alone, it is enough to teach all of us that children, yes, even when they are children, giving them attention takes them to a higher place. Giving them attention changes them. And ignoring them also changes them. But not for good, instead for worse. Ignoring them, neglecting them, disregarding them will leave negative impact. But paying attention to them, caring for them, and giving them the attention that they deserve and that they are entitled to is something that will help them. That will help them become stronger in Iman, become stronger in Islam, and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Ali radiallahu anhu holds that honor in the history of Islam to be the first child to embrace Islam. And that is an honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Ali radiallahu anhu. And it was something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had chosen for Ali radiallahu anhu. So Ali radiallahu anhu was already in the care of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam because his father Abu Talib had a big family. Ali radiallahu anhu had many siblings, brothers and sisters. Abu Talib had a large family. At the same time, he was a very poor person. Abu Talib did not have means to sustain the needs of his family. So the Prophet ﷺ, he was in a better financial position, and his uncle Hamza radiallahu anhu was also in a better financial condition. So they both decided to take care of some of the children of Abu Talib. And this tells us about the family, the importance of the family, and how family should always come in when one person is in need of help. So this was one family, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was able to care for someone from the family of Abu Talib, and Hamza radiallahu was able to care for someone in the family of Abu Talib. So they both stepped in and they said, we will take care of this child and he will take care of that child. That will give you some relief from the financial burden that is on your shoulders. So the Prophet ﷺ took care of Ali radiallahu anh, and he raised Ali radiallahu anh. And many years later, when the Prophet ﷺ became Prophet of Allah, Ali radiallahu anh was the first child to embrace Islam. Because Ali radiallahu anh grew up with the Prophet ﷺ as even though he was his uncle, but in age he was much older. The Prophet ﷺ was much older than Ali radiallahu anh. So he saw the character of the Prophet ﷺ. He saw the truthfulness of the Prophet ﷺ. He saw the honesty of the Prophet ﷺ. He saw all of that, and when the Prophet ﷺ invited him towards Islam, he immediately said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. So that is the beginning of the life of Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anh. And by the way, he also comes from Quraysh. He also comes from Banu Hashim. The father of Ali radiallahu anh, Abu Talib, is the direct uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, immediate uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was the younger brother of Abdullah, the father of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Ali radiallahu anh is the direct and immediate cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even the mother of Ali radiallahu anh, her name was Fatima binti Asad. She also belonged from the same family. She was also part of Quraysh. And therefore Ali radiallahu anh has a very blessed lineage. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him with a very noble and blessed lineage. Now, when he embraced Islam, he started practicing Islam. He started doing what all the Muslims were doing, what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was teaching. He was a good learner, so he would always try to learn from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was spending all the time with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that gave him an advantage over others who were not really living with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he learned a lot from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had deep love for Ali radiallahu anh, and he had all the confidence in Ali radiallahu anh, all the faith in Ali radiallahu anh, in terms of his honesty, in terms of his character, in terms of his faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when the time came for the migration, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as he was known for his honesty and for his trustworthiness in the city of Mecca, people used to leave their precious possessions with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they knew that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would never breach their trust. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would never violate their trust. The Prophet ﷺ would return it to them whenever they needed to. So they were using the Prophet ﷺ as the locker. Yet most of them did not believe in the Prophet ﷺ's message. So the Prophet ﷺ in return did not retaliate by taking their money or by taking their belongings away from them, because that's not allowed in Islam. Even though those people would hurt the Prophet ﷺ, but the Prophet ﷺ would not do anything in violation of the rules of the trust. So when the time came for migration, the Prophet ﷺ was ready to leave Mecca for Medina for good. But he was still burdened by the amana that people had left with him. So the Prophet ﷺ decided to appoint Ali radiallahu anh to be the person who would return all the amana to the people, to their legitimate owners after his departure. So he told Ali radiallahu anh that I will leave all the amanat with you, all the trust that people have given me with you, and once I'm gone, then you can call those people and return their things to them, and after that you can come to Medina as well. Now the Prophet ﷺ chose Ali radiallahu anh for this responsibility over all the people in Mecca. And Ali radiallahu anh gladly accepted that, even though it was a life and death matter. Because that same night, Meccans were plotting to assassinate the Prophet ﷺ. So anyone who would be in the place of the Prophet ﷺ as his deputy or as someone who was left behind by the Prophet ﷺ on his bed was obviously facing a threat to their life. But Ali radiallahu anh had strong faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore he accepted that responsibility. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was gone, he tried to return the amana to the owners as soon as possible. And when he was done with that, he also went to Medina and settled there with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he participated in all the major battles in the history of Islam. He participated in the battle of Badr. He participated in the battle of Uhud. He participated in the battle of Ahzab. He participated in Hudaybiyah. He participated in Khaybar. He participated in Hunayn. He participated in other minor battles in the history of Islam. The only time he did not participate in a battle was the time of the battle of Tabuk. And you know what happened when Ali radiallahu anh, why he did not participate in the battle of Tabuk? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him another job. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam left him behind in Medina as the leader in charge, in absence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is in Medina, there is nobody else. But he himself is the leader. He himself would be the leader for all the people. And whenever the Prophet ﷺ would leave Medina, this was his constant practice, that he would always leave someone behind as the person in charge, as a person of authority. So at the battle of Tabuk, at the time of Tabuk, Rasulullah ﷺ was leaving Ali radiallahu anh behind. And when he was leaving, Ali radiallahu anh was not happy, because this was the very first time that Ali radiallahu anh was not traveling with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was not able to participate in a battle. He was known for his bravery. He was known for his skills. He was known for his fight. He was known for all the things that a hero is known for. So the Prophet ﷺ was asked by Ali radiallahu anh. Ali radiallahu anh was in a way is complaining to the Prophet ﷺ that, "O Prophet of Allah, you are leaving me behind. Take me with you. Leave someone else in charge." So the Prophet ﷺ said to him, "Aren't you happy that you are anta bimanzilati minni, anta minni bimanzilati Haruna bimusa? Aren't you happy that you are to me like Harun was to Musa?" Now Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam were real brothers. And when Musa alayhi salam left from the town to meet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Mount Tur, he left his brother Harun in charge of the people. So the Prophet ﷺ was making a reference to that you are to me like Harun was to Musa alayhi salam. In that example, both of them are great servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam. And then at the same time, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reminding him that you are doing the job of being my successor in my absence. And that is an honor. At the same time, he said, however, وَلَكِنْ لَا نَبِيَّ بَعْدِي, Harun alayhi salam was a prophet of Allah and Musa alayhi salam was a prophet of Allah. Here, only I am the prophet of Allah. You're not the prophet of Allah. But you are being my successor in this scenario when I'm leaving Medina and you are in charge. You're left in charge. So in every battle, Ali radiallahu anh participated, and in every battle, he proved his worth and his skills as a warrior. He was one of the best warriors in the history of Islam. So in the Battle of Badr, he is the one who fought openly with one of the best warriors of Kuffar of Quraysh, like Umayyah and Utbah and Utayba and Walid. It was Ali radiallahu anh who fought with them. And in those days, they used to have what is called mubaraza, one-on-one fight. So before the battle would start, both armies would be facing each other. But before the general war would start, each army would call its best to the front ground, and that person would issue a challenge to the other army and say, is there anyone who has the courage to fight with me? So when Umayyah came forward from the army of Quraysh to challenge the Muslims on the side of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the battlefield of Badr, he said, is there anyone who would like to fight with me? Does anyone have the courage to fight with me one-on-one? Ali radiallahu anh came forward. And he said, yes, I will. And then in the first strike, he got rid of Umayyah. Likewise, he fought bravely with other enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he succeeded in every mission. Likewise, in the battle of Uhud, he stood firm on the battlefield of Uhud, and he fought with the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, in the battle of Khaybar. In the battle of Khaybar, this is where he's really distinguished from all other companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because in the battle of Khaybar, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had besieged the fortresses in Khaybar for many days, and it seems like they had hit a wall, and they were not able to break that wall. They were not able to get beyond that. Many days passed by. It seems like nothing is working, no strategy is working, because the people who were inside, they had plenty of food inside, they had plenty of everything inside, and if they needed to remain in that fortress for even months, they could live there. They did not have to come out. So they were protected by the massive walls of the fortress, and there was a massive door that would give entrance to that fortress, to that castle. So one day, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at night time, he said, tomorrow I'm going to give the flag of Muslims to a person who loves Allah and His Messenger. And Allah and His Messenger love him. So that night everyone became anxious, because everyone loves Allah and His Messenger, and everyone wanted that honor to be given to them. Umar radiallahu anhu was there, who wished that this honor would go to him. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was there, who wished that this honor would go to him. And Uthman radiallahu anhu, Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, every single companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made this wish, that I wish I am that person who's given the standard, the flag tomorrow, so I can go and conquer this. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam woke up in the morning, they performed Salat al-Fajr. Everyone is now looking at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and waiting to hear their name. See if their name is called by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that means they're chosen. So everybody is anxiously waiting. After the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam completed the Fajr prayer, and then all of a sudden the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's looking at the people who are praying, and he doesn't see one person. And one person that he doesn't see, that is Ali radiallahu anhu. So the Prophet ﷺ asked, where is Ali? Someone tells the Prophet ﷺ, Ali has been feeling sick. His eyes are running. He's been having pain, and he's not feeling well. So the Prophet ﷺ said, go bring him to me. And they brought Ali radiallahu anhu to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ made dua for him. And as soon as the Prophet ﷺ made dua for Ali radiallahu anhu, he immediately healed and became better. And then the Prophet ﷺ said that I am giving this flag to you. That showed everyone that Ali radiallahu anhu is the one, by the testimony of the Prophet ﷺ, who loves Allah and His Messenger, and Allah and His Messenger love him. There's no doubt about that. And then Ali radiallahu anhu went forward. It's a long story. Ali radiallahu anhu went forward, and he successfully conquered the fortress of Khaybar, and the war ended at that time. Last Friday actually, when we were in Medina, we tried to go to Khaybar. I've always wanted to go to Khaybar, but it has not happened yet. Inshallah, when Allah plans, then I will go. So we hired a taxi, and we agreed on the price of. It's about 2 hours drive from Medina. So our plan was, this was after Salat al-Jumu'ah last week. So our plan was that we would leave after Salat al-Jumu'ah. We will get to Khaybar in 2 hours. We'll spend some time over there, inshallah, and do the ziyarah and spend some time on the same ground where the Prophet ﷺ was, and the companions of the Prophet ﷺ learn some lessons from the history of Islam. And then we'll perform Salat al-Asr there, and then make our way back to Medina. So we start our journey with a Saudi driver, and when we were just crossing the boundary of Medina, the driver stops the car and he says, I just called my friend and he told me that you cannot go to Khaybar. We said, why? He said, because they closed it and they do not allow it. And he said, we just want to go there and visit the place, because it is a significant place in the history of Islam. But the driver said, no, I cannot take you there, and I will get in trouble myself. So then we said, okay, just take us back to Medina. We thought, this was not planned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala approves that, then it will happen, inshallah. So Ali radiallahu anhu was chosen by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be the Imam of Hajj. Not the Imam of Hajj, but the one who goes with the declaration, with the message from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ali radiallahu anhu was the closest relative of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Therefore, in the 9th year of Hijrah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu to lead the Hajj in Mecca, and he sent Ali radiallahu anhu with the message, with the declaration. What was the declaration? The declaration is the first few verses of Surah At-Tawbah. براءة من الله ورسوله إلى الذين عاهدتم من المشركين فسيحوا في الأرض أربعة أشهر واعلموا أنكم غير معجز الله وأن الله مخزي الكافرين وأذان من الله ورسوله إلى الناس يوم الحج الأكبر أن الله بريء من المشركين ورسوله. So the reason why the Prophet ﷺ sent Ali radiallahu anhu with that message, because it was the custom among Arabs that if some important message needs to be delivered, it has to be delivered by the closest relative of the leader. And the leader of Muslims was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the closest relative of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Ali radiallahu anhu. No one else was more closer to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam than Ali radiallahu anhu from his family. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam married him to his beloved daughter Fatima radiallahu anha because he trusted him with everything. He trusted him with the life of his daughter. He trusted him with the happiness of his daughter. And therefore, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam chose Ali radiallahu anhu. By the way, for Fatima radiallahu anha, there were so many companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who sent their proposal to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who expressed their desire that they would like to marry the daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And among them were the senior companions of the Prophet ﷺ. But whenever someone would come and express their desire that they would like to marry the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ would reject it. And then by the will of Allah, by the command of Allah, he decided that he will marry his daughter to Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam got him married. He performed the nikah of Ali radiallahu anhu and Fatima radiallahu anha in the second year of migration, in the second year of Hijrah. So in the 9th year, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent Ali radiallahu anhu with the message, Ali radiallahu anhu went over there and he delivered the message to all the people who had arrived into Mecca from all over Arabia for the purpose of Hajj, for the purpose of pilgrimage. One of the reasons why this happened this way, why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself did not go the very first year when Hajj became fard, because during that time people were not yet following all the customs of Islam. Because there were people who were not Muslim and they were also performing Hajj. Hajj is a ritual that has been going on for centuries, not just after Islam, but long before Islam. And the very first time when the Prophet ﷺ delivered the message of Islam to foreigners, to people outside of Mecca, he did that at the time of Hajj. At the time of Hajj, the Prophet ﷺ, and this is before the migration, at that time Hajj was not even an institution in Islam. Hajj was not even a worship in Islam. It was still pre-Islamic ritual. So the Prophet ﷺ would go to Arafat, would go to Mina and visit delegations, visit people who had come to Arafat and Mina from all over Arabia, and he would talk to them about Islam. And this is where the very first Pledge of Allegiance happened, where a group of Ansar, 12 of them, they came from Medina, they came for Hajj, but the Prophet ﷺ talked to them about Islam, invited them towards Islam, and they all embraced it. Asma bint Yazid radiallahu anha was a woman who was among those people who pledged their allegiance to the Prophet ﷺ during that time. So the very first time the Prophet ﷺ met with the people from Ansar, from Medina, was at that time, at the time of Hajj. And then the second year, more people came, about 36 of them. And the third year, about 72 of them came. And they all embraced Islam. And they went back and they started propagating Islam. They started promoting Islam to the people of Medina. And Islam started holding its roots in the streets of Medina, in the city of Medina, even before the Prophet ﷺ migrated. So the Prophet ﷺ sent Ali radiallahu anhu to make this declaration that today, this year is the last year that any mushrik, any non-believer, and any idolater is allowed to make Hajj. لا يحجن بعد هذا العام مشرك. After this year, no mushrik will be allowed to perform Hajj. And that has been the tradition, alhamdulillah, since that time until today and until the Day of Judgment, that no mushrik will be allowed to perform Hajj. So the next year, the following year, when the Prophet ﷺ went for Hajj, that year only Muslims performed Hajj. There was no mushrik, there was no kafir, there was nobody else. Only Muslims performed Hajj. And there were more than 100,000 Muslims who performed Hajj with the Prophet ﷺ the following year. So Ali radiallahu anhu, he holds many honors in the history of Islam. And there are so many ahadith about the virtues and about the merits of Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. As a matter of fact, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullahi alayh, he said, لم ينقل لأحد من الصحابة ما نقل لعلي رضي الله عنه. He said, there's no one from the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about whom more virtues are reported, more merits are reported than Ali radiallahu anhu. Once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Allahumma man kuntu mawlahu fa'aliyu mawlahu. That to whoever I am the friend and the ally and the master, then Ali is also his friend and ally and master. And then he said, whoever will have any animosity towards Ali radiallahu anh will have animosity towards me. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave a very, very lofty position to Ali radiallahu anh in Islam. And Ali radiallahu anh made all the sacrifices and all the work, all the hard work towards the promotion of Islam from the very early period. From the time he embraced Islam, as I said, he's the first child to embrace Islam, until Islam reached all corners of the world. Ali radiallahu anh was there, and Ali radiallahu anh made all those sacrifices. Ali radiallahu anh was always there in submission to the law of Allah and to the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And his bravery was always admired. His bravery was always appreciated in the history of Islam. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, it was Ali radiallahu anh who was the main person to wash the blessed body of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, he called Ali radiallahu anh and he said, "Oh Ali, when I die, then go and bring water from the well of Gharas." This is a well in Medina, maybe about a mile or little less than a mile from Masjid al-Nabawi. The water of that well was really blessed water. The Prophet ﷺ would often drink from that well. That well, the location of that well is there today preserved. But there is no water in that well anymore. So that is called the well of Gharas, Bi'r Gharas. So the Prophet ﷺ told Ali radiallahu anh, "Oh Ali, when I die, then you go and bring water from that well and then wash my body with the water of that well." So Ali radiallahu anh did that. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, he went over there, he got water from that well, from the well in Medina, from Bi'r Gharas, and he brought the water, and he was the main person to wash the blessed body of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then they shrouded the body, the blessed body of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then they dug the grave, and then they participated in the burial of the blessed body of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Ali radiallahu anh was the one who was always there. Even during the time of illness that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had, that led to his departure from this world, Ali radiallahu anh was always there serving the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, caring for the Prophet ﷺ and caring for any needs of the Prophet ﷺ. There is no doubt about the closeness that Ali radiallahu anh had with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, Muslims chose Abu Bakr radiallahu anh to be their leader, to be Amirul Mu'mineen, and he was the first successor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And from there, the time of Al-Khilafatul Rashida, or the time of the rightly guided successor started. Starting from Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. After Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, Umar radiallahu anh became Amirul Mu'mineen. After Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, Uthman radiallahu anh became Amirul Mu'mineen. And after Uthman radiallahu anh, when Uthman radiallahu anh left from this world, Muslims elected Amirul Mu'mineen Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anh as the Khalifa and as Amirul Mu'mineen. And that happened in Medina. So if you remember, I shared with you that Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh was assassinated. And then Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anh was also assassinated. The graves of the three companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, Umar radiallahu anh, and Uthman radiallahu anh, are all in Medina. The graves of two companions, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh and Umar radiallahu anh, are with the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is now inside Masjid al-Nabawi. And the grave of Uthman radiallahu anh is in Jannatul Baqi. So when Uthman radiallahu anh passed away, Muslims appointed Ali radiallahu anh to be Amirul Mu'mineen. And they elected him as the Khalifa of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Unanimously. There was no second opinion about the leadership of Ali radiallahu anh and about the legitimacy of the Khilafah of Ali radiallahu anh. So when Ali radiallahu anh came into power, he immediately turned his attention to the well-being of the people in Medina. And he tried to address the issues that were the challenges that were facing the people in Medina, in Mecca, and all over the Muslim world. And by that time, the Muslim rule had expanded to over 3 million square miles in the world. So all of Arabia was under the rule of Islam, including Syria, Yemen, and all of Hijaz. And Egypt was under the rule of Islam. Syria was under the rule of Islam. Lebanon was under the rule of Islam. All of this was Levant or Bilad al-Sham. And East Africa was under the rule of Islam. North Africa was under the rule of Islam. And even some countries in West Africa were under the rule of Islam. So by this time, the Muslim rule had expanded greatly. So Ali radiallahu anh came in and he tried to bring peace into the city of Medina, because the moments leading up to the assassination of Uthman radiallahu anh, the martyrdom of Uthman radiallahu anh, there was a lot of turmoil created in Medina, bloodshed created in the streets of Medina. So Ali radiallahu anh immediately took control, and he tried to handle the issues facing at that time, and he successfully did that. But after establishing peace in Medina, Ali radiallahu anh, he thought that it is important to move the capital of Muslim world away from Medina, away from Mecca, because these are the sacred cities of Muslims, Mecca and Medina. And if the capital is in these blessed cities, anytime someone wants to attack the capital, they will end up attacking Mecca or Medina. And this is why it's wiser to move the capital away from these blessed cities. So by the wisdom of Ali radiallahu anh, he moved the Khilafah, he moved Darul Khilafah from Medina to Iraq, to Kufa. He went to Kufa, which was a city already designed by Umar radiallahu anh, established by Umar radiallahu anh, by the command of Umar radiallahu anh. So Ali radiallahu anh went to Kufa, and he made Kufa as Darul Khilafah, or the capital of the Muslim world. And then he lived there for a few years. he only got to live as Amirul Mu'mineen for about 6 years, and during those 6 years he had a lot of challenges that we can talk about for a very long time in the history of Islam. And Ali radiallahu anh had to face those challenges in that time, and he was successful in following the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in following the guidelines of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in trying to deal with those challenges. But those challenges were mighty and massive that Ali radiallahu anh had to face. So Ali radiallahu anh moved with his family to Kufa, and he established Kufa as Darul Khilafah in Islam. And there he lived until his death, and then he was assassinated as well. Unfortunately, he was martyred in the city of Kufa. As he was going for the prayer, someone came from the back and attacked him and assassinated him. He died a few days later because of the wounds of that attack. But scholars and historians, they say that no one had the courage to come and attack Ali radiallahu anh from his front. This guy who did it, he was coward, and he came from behind and he attacked Ali radiallahu anh. So Ali radiallahu anh was married to Fatima radiallahu anha for almost 10 years. And for as long as he was married to Fatima radiallahu anha, he did not marry anybody else. This was his loyalty to Fatima radiallahu anha. This was his faithfulness to the beloved daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For as long as he was married to Fatima radiallahu anha, he did not marry anyone else during that time. And he was blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Him and Fatima radiallahu anha were blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with 2 children, with Hassan radiallahu anh and Hussein radiallahu anh. These are the 2 grandsons of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who basically continued the lineage of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam called them the leaders of the youth in Jannah. Sayyida Shababi Ahl Jannah. The leaders of the youth in Jannah. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about his uncle Hamza that he is Sayyidul Shuhada. He is the leader of all the martyrs. And his beloved daughter Fatima radiallahu anha, he said about her, Sayyidatul Nisa'i Ahl Jannah. She is the leader of all the women in Jannah. So the leader of all the women in Jannah is Fatima radiallahu anha. The leader of all the youth in Jannah is Hassan radiallahu anh, Hussein radiallahu anh. The leader of all martyrs is Hamza radiallahu anh. This is the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, before he passed away, he gave this news to his beloved daughter Fatima radiallahu anha, that after I die, you will be the first one from my family to meet with me. Meaning you will be the first one to leave from this world and join me in the next world. And that's exactly what happened. Only 6 months later, Fatima radiallahu anha said farewell to this world, and she left from this world. And she was very young at that time. She was only in her early 30s when she passed away. But she was the first one to meet with her father, with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam left from this world. So Ali radiallahu anh was blessed in all the ways possible by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was the first child to embrace Islam. He was the son-in-law of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was married to the most beloved daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He participated in all the battles in the history of Islam except the Battle of Tabuk, and he became the deputy to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in absence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam left for Tabuk. And then he became the 4th Khalifa in Islam, and he's also one of the 10 promised ones, one of the 10 Sahaba who were given the good news of Jannah in this life. Al-Asharatul Mubashshara. Ali radiallahu anh is one of them. And he is, Ali radiallahu anh, as I said, was honored and blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be the primary person to wash the blessed body of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam after his death. And he was also there. He was the one who placed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam into the grave. He went down, and he was the one who accepted the blessed body of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and placed the body of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam onto the ground. It was Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anh. May Allah be pleased with him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to follow the footsteps of Ali radiallahu anh and the likes of Ali radiallahu anh in this life. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite us with them in the hereafter in Jannah. Wa akhir da'wana an alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Any questions? Yes.
I just want to confirm that now we know, all the world knows that Islam has some group of people called Sunni,
Yes.
some Shia. And I know that Ali radiallahu anhu, nothing has to do with this division.
No,
I just want to confirm.
not at all.
But is that happen as soon as the Ali radiallahu anhu assassinated?
No, that happened earlier than that. By the way, Ali radiallahu anh, he always condemned that. So Ali radiallahu anh did not agree to any division in Islam. Ali radiallahu anh always condemned any divisions. And as I said, those people who came after Ali radiallahu anh, Khawarij, Ali radiallahu anh dealt with them forcefully. And then there was the group who we may call Alawis. And that is the group today in Syria as well, Alawites. This butcher leader belongs from that group. So Alawis were the ones who elevated the status of Ali radiallahu anh for their love for Ali radiallahu anh to na'udhu billah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They used to say Aliyullah, that Ali is Allah. So Ali radiallahu anh dealt with them. He dealt with them forcefully, and he punished them. He captured them wherever they were, and he imprisoned them. He dealt with them very forcefully. And the same goes for those people who were deviating from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But that dissension happened on the issue of successorship, on the issue of who was eligible to be the first successor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So those who associate themselves with Tashayyu' or with Shia, they believe that Ali radiallahu anh was supposed to be the first Khalifa, and he's the first Imam, and he's this and that, and therefore he was supposed to be the first Khalifa in Islam, and that honor or that right was stolen away from him by other companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's where the dissension comes. So it's a political dissension.
Roughly how old was Ali radiallahu anhu at the time of the Battle of Badr?
So he was, let's say, 10 when he embraced Islam, and 13 years later he migrated, so he was 23 at that time, and at the time of Badr he was 25. 24 or 25. Where? Okay.
Can we have a separate lecture on all the conflicts that happened during the Khilafah of Ali radiallahu anhu and the lessons we can learn from that, and what should be the stance of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah there, whether of Islam al-Sifi and all the conflicts that happened?
Yes, inshallah. So then the next one that we have, we can talk about that, inshallah. About the challenges that Ali radiallahu anh faced in his time as Khalifa, as Amir al-Mu'mineen, inshallah. Alright, so Now the month of Sha'ban has already started. It is the second day of the blessed month of Sha'ban. That means we are either 27 or 28 days away from Ramadan. Next Friday we have the monthly community dinner, and then after that we'll have only 2 weeks left. So the week after next week, inshallah, we'll try to cover Ali radiallahu anhu's time as Amirul Mu'mineen and as Khalifa, and then after that we'll talk about another companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then we'll stop for the month of Ramadan, and after Ramadan we'll continue again, inshallah. Last night I made the announcement that we're going to start a new series or a new class on the compendium of prophetic beauty, Shama'il al-Tirmidhi. Imam Tirmidhi rahmatullahi alayh is one of the scholars of hadith, one of the scientists of hadith, and he has compiled a book which is called Ash-Shama'il, and in that book he has mentioned all the different ahadith regarding the beauty of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, regarding the character of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, regarding the traits of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the features of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of that. So it's a very beautiful book, very important book, and it helps us instill love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, develop love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we're going to start that, inshallah. My original suggestion was that we could keep spreading the word and then start. So we're going to have it twice a week, on Monday and Thursday. These are the days that we will have those classes. So my original suggestion was that we could start after the month of Ramadan. We only have about 3.5 weeks till the month of Ramadan. But then some brothers suggested that why wait? We should start even now in the month of Sha'ban. So we can start in the month of Sha'ban. I have no problem with that. But regarding the timing of that, it is still open for suggestions. A few suggestions that were given last night was to hold it either half an hour. So this, every time we'll do it, inshallah, we'll do it only for half an hour, 30 to 35 minutes. So one suggestion about the timing was we do it half an hour before Isha prayer or half an hour after Isha prayer. Another suggestion was we do it about half an hour before Maghrib prayer. So these are the few suggestions that have come in so far. You can give your suggestion, inshallah, and then we will decide on the time, and then we will announce it, inshallah. We can share it on WhatsApp and other messaging systems as well, and then we can start that, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد أفضل صلواتك اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من الراشدين اللهم استر عوراتنا وآمن روعاتنا اللهم احفظنا من بين أيدينا ومن خلفنا وعن يميننا وعن شمالنا ومن فوقنا وأن نغتال من تحتنا رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم رسولا ونبيا ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين جزاكم الله